My freeloading girlfriend skipped my promotion dinner and texted she forgot about me, but my silent exit turned her perfect life into chaos. I'm Michael, 31, male. For a good chunk of my life I thought being the reliable guy was automatically a strength in relationships. Like, if you worked hard, kept your word, and handled your business, things would naturally balance out, right?
Yeah.
Turns out all that makes you, in some cases, is a walking crutch for someone else's lazy habits. It took me time, and a whole lot of patience. I'll never get back to figure that out. I work as an energy system specialist. Basically, I help keep the grid running in my city. If something fails, people lose power, factories go down, hospitals get screwed. My job is one of those roles where a small mistake means a whole neighborhood is sitting in the dark. So yeah, I take planning and reliability seriously. Meanwhile, my ex Jasmine, 28 female, was the complete opposite. She worked in PR event coordination for an art gallery. Translation, she got paid almost nothing to wear nice outfits, drink coffee with clients, and make Instagram look like she was living some very important person lifestyle. We met through mutual friends at a rooftop thing. She was the type of girl who walked in and instantly everyone wanted to talk to her. Loud laugh, big gestures like she owned the place. I'll admit, I was hooked right away. I'm the opposite, quiet until I know you, dry humor, sarcastic. She found that charming, or so she said, and I found her energy kind of electric at the time. We clicked fast. Within 8 months we were living together. She pushed for it, said it would make sense financially, which was hilarious because from day one of those money talks, she casually suggested I cover more of the rent since I made more. She framed it like some kind of progressive fairness thing. Babe, you're the stable one, and I'm still climbing. This way we balance it. Yeah. Translation, she wanted the lifestyle but didn't want to pay for it. I ended up covering 75% without much debate. I told myself it wasn't a big deal, I had the money and honestly I wanted her around. Rookie mistake. Moving in day should have been a reality check. I set up the movers, carried half the boxes myself, dealt with internet, power, water, the whole 9 yards. Jasmine showed up late, hung around for maybe an hour pretending to organize stuff, then dipped with her sister for brunch. While I was sweating bullets trying to figure out why the couch wouldn't fit through the stairwell. When she came back hours later, she acted surprised, like, wow, you got everything set up already. You're amazing. It was annoying, but I brushed it off. Though deep down I kind of clocked it. That was the thing about her. She had this way of making laziness look like some quirky free spirit move. If she forgot something important, it wasn't irresponsible, it was, I'm just so spontaneous, babe. If she left me stranded, it was, I thought you'd handle it. You're so independent. At first I laughed it off, thought maybe we balanced each other out, me the planner, her the wild card. But those wild cards stack up. The first couple of months were full of little things, like when she showed up almost an hour late to dinner with my CO workers. I'd been hyping her up, telling them about her job, how fun she was. She walked in like it was a fashion show, made some loud jokes, and then spent half the night scrolling her phone under the table. People noticed. I felt that embarrassment crawl up my neck but played it cool, cracked a few jokes about how she runs on Jasmine Standard Time. Everyone laughed politely, but I knew they thought it was weird. By then I was starting to see a pattern but didn't want to admit it. Like, everyone tells you relationships are work, right? So I told myself, hey, she's busy, she's high energy, she's got her own way of showing she cares. But the thing about small red flags is they don't fade, they multiply. Even in the apartment I noticed stuff. I'd cook, she'd leave the dishes to soak. Translation, she'd never touch them again. She swore she'd take over laundry once we got settled, then forgot every weekend until I gave up and just did it. It was like living with a roommate who acted like she was still a guest in a hotel. But back then I kept making excuses. She's young at heart, she's just social, she's a free spirit. That's what I told myself. Truth is, she was showing me from day one she didn't value reliability, she valued convenience. As long as someone else handled the boring grown-up stuff, she could keep being the fun girl with the perfect IG stories. And guess who that someone else was? Looking back, the start of our relationship wasn't romance, it was training. I was training myself to accept less while doing more, and Jasmine was training herself to expect more while giving less. And I didn't even see it. By the time month 10 rolled around, I'd collected enough evidence to know Jasmine wasn't just quirky, she was inconsistent. And I don't deal well with inconsistent. My job literally requires me to predict power loads and stop blackouts before they happen. I can't afford to be sloppy at work, so why should I tolerate it at home? The first real showdown happened during the car signing. We'd been talking about getting a vehicle together for weeks. She wanted something sleek that would impress at her gallery events. I wanted something reliable that wouldn't die on the highway. We finally found a compromise SUV, decent financing, all lined up. The signing was at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I got there on time, obviously. I was sitting with the sales manager going over numbers, waiting for Jasmine. 15 minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. The sales guy kept bringing me coffee, trying not to look annoyed. Finally, at almost 3:30, my phone buzzed. Jasmine, OMG babe, lost track of time at this pool networking thing. So many important people here. Can you handle the paperwork? You're better at that stuff anyway. I stared at that text for a good 30 seconds, then texted back, yeah, sure, but this isn't how this is going to work if we're buying things together. I had the sales guy rerun the paperwork solo since she bailed, signed every line myself, and drove the car home. When she finally strolled in around 7, glowing from the sun, I tossed the keys on the counter and said, congrats. You now own exactly 0% of this car, since I'm apparently the only adult who could be bothered to show up. She gave me those big eyes like I'd just kicked a puppy. Babe, don't be so dramatic. You know how important networking is for me. I promise next time I'll be there. No, I said straight-faced. There's no next time if this keeps happening. I'm not dragging deadweight partner into every decision. If you want this to work, start showing up. Literally. She froze, then did what Jasmine always did when cornered, went into panic promise mode. Hands on my chest, soft voice. You're right. I screwed up. I'll do better, I swear. It sounded rehearsed, like she'd said it before to other people. And sure enough, 2 weeks later came my birthday. She swore she had it covered, told me to keep Saturday night free. I imagined dinner somewhere decent, maybe she'd actually surprise me for once. Saturday afternoon she dropped the bomb, so, funny story. My friend's in a crisis, totally forgot I promised her I'd help her move. Can we do lunch tomorrow instead? I laughed in her face, not even mad, just amazed. So my birthday is a funny story now. Got it. Enjoy carrying boxes. I'll treat myself tonight. She looked rattled. Michael, I said tomorrow. Why are you making this a big deal? I'll make it special. Because if you keep making me the backup plan, there won't be a tomorrow, I shot back. I don't wait around like a spare part in my own relationship. Cue meltdown number 2, the teary eyes, the you're being so harsh routine. I wasn't buying it. Then came the family incident. My grandmother had been admitted to the hospital and we were supposed to meet with relatives about her care. Jasmine promised she'd come, said she wanted to support me. I even texted her reminders that morning. 2 p.m. meeting time. At 2:30, still no Jasmine. At 3, I called, no answer. At 4, relatives were side-eyeing me, asking if she was coming. At 5, she finally texted, sorry babe, got pulled into a last-minute spa day with the work girls. You handled it fine though, right? Tell everyone I said hi. When I got home, she bounced in smelling like lavender oils, holding shopping bags. How's your grandma? She asked casually, like we just had coffee. I didn't sugarcoat it. She's stable, and you missed something important again. Do you realize every time I count on you, you vanish? Jasmine rolled her eyes, sinking onto the couch. You're blowing this up. It's not like she died and you're so independent you don't need me there. You always handle everything. That word independent. She used it like it was a compliment, but I knew it was just cover for her absence. I leaned against the wall and said, let's make this crystal clear. If you think me being independent means I'm okay with being abandoned every time, you're wrong. I don't need a spectator in my life. Either you're a partner or you're a distraction. Pick one. That hit her. She sat up, eyes wide, lip trembling. Michael, I swear I'll change. I don't want to lose you. I'll do better. I didn't comfort her. I just nodded. We'll see. But I'm not repeating myself again. For once, she actually looked scared. And maybe for a week or two she tried. Helped with dishes, showed up on time for a date. But deep down I knew it wasn't real change. It was temporary damage control. That was Jasmine's specialty. Patch jobs. Make a mess, cry a little, promise the world, then slide back into the same habits. And me? I wasn't a doormat anymore. I was watching, waiting, calculating. Every time she slipped, my patience ticked closer to 0. And then the promotion landed. Senior Energy Systems Architect. That's not some little pat on the back. It meant a fat raise, my own team, and a ton more responsibility. Basically, years of grinding finally paying off. I knew I should have celebrated with family or close buddies, but stupid me still wanted Jasmine to be part of it. Some part of me thought maybe, just maybe, she'd get it this time. So I set up dinner at Lumiere, the same restaurant where we'd had our first anniversary. Classy place, soft lighting, quiet jazz, the kind of place you actually dress up for. I even ordered a cake ahead of time with congrats, Michael written on it. Told Jasmine weeks in advance, blocked it on her calendar, reminded her the morning of. She looked me in the eye and said, that's incredible, Michael. There's no way I'd miss it. Fast forward to the big night. I showed up 15 minutes early, feeling sharp in a new jacket, ready to finally enjoy a night where the spotlight was mine. Ordered champagne, sat down, and waited. At 7 p.m. I wasn't worried. Jasmine was usually a little late. At 7:15, I started checking my phone more. By 7:30, the waiter was hovering, asking if I wanted to order. I told him I'd wait. By 7:45, my stomach wasn't even hungry anymore. I was running scenarios in my head. Car accident, work emergency, something serious. Then I texted her sister Madison, "Hey, you heard from Jasmine? We had dinner plans and she's not answering." Madison shot back quick. "She's at her office party rooftop downtown. Looks like she's having a blast from her Instagram." I pulled up Instagram and there it was, Jasmine glowing in a cocktail dress, laughing with coworkers, holding glasses, posing against the skyline. Story after story. One of the clips was time-stamped 15 minutes earlier. She was mid-toast with her team while I sat in a restaurant alone. And then my phone buzzed with her text. "Oops, I totally forgot about dinner. Sorry, I'm stuck at this work party and the networking here is just too important to leave. Can we just do tomorrow instead? You understand, right?" I stared at it. Not angry, not sad, just clear. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip. It was her. She chose a rooftop party over celebrating the biggest accomplishment of my life. The same way she'd chosen a spa day over my grandma, a move day over my birthday, brunch over moving in. The waiter came back, sympathy all over his face. "Would you like to order, sir, or wait a little longer?" I leaned back, smirked, and said, "Actually, bring the cake. And another chair, my buddy's coming." I shot a text to my best friend Mark. Dinner for 2 turned into dinner for 1. "Come eat free steak and cake," he replied in less than a minute. "On my way." 20 minutes later, he strolled into the restaurant in gym shorts and a hoodie, looking like he'd wandered into the wrong tax bracket. The host gave him a death stare but sat us anyway since the place was half empty. He plopped down, grabbed the menu and said, "Damn, she ditched you again. You're softer than baby food, man. I told you this girl was trash the first time she was late to meet your parents. You should have dumped her day one." I laughed for the first time that night. "Yeah, thanks for the pep talk, coach." He pointed at the champagne. "This for her? Good. More for me then. Congrats on the promotion, by the way. Guess you finally leveled up enough to realize you were dating a discount firework. Loud, flashy, burns out quick." The waiter brought the steak and the cake, candles lit. Mark clapped like a kid at a birthday party. "Look at this, big boy job, big boy cake, no deadweight girlfriend. Honestly, it's a win." I shook my head, grinning. "You're unbelievable." "Unbelievable? Nah, bro, you're unbelievable. Covering 75% of rent for a chick who can't even cover a dinner reservation. If there was a doormat Olympics, you'd have gold, silver, and bronze." I stabbed a piece of steak, shoved it in my mouth, and said, "Consider this my retirement announcement. No more carrying." Mark raised his fork like a toast. "Good. About time. You keep power grids running. Don't waste energy on a girl who can't even run her own calendar." Walking out of that restaurant, I realized he was right. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just done. Jasmine thought she'd flaked on a dinner. What she really did was cancel the whole relationship. That night, while she went on about her career moves from the rooftop party, I sat there calm, smiling, nodding like usual. She thought she'd charmed her way out again. What she didn't realize was I wasn't listening anymore. I was planning. The second she fell asleep, I grabbed my laptop. That night, I started scrolling listings, found a 1-bedroom across town that checked all the boxes, applied, and by midweek I was approved. Not flashy, not big, but it was mine. My name on the lease, my space, my rules. The next morning, Jasmine was scrolling Instagram at the counter, showing me pictures of her networking. I told her I'd be working extra hours this week. She grinned and said, "Good babe, that's why you're so amazing. You always handle things." She had no clue I wasn't handling our life anymore. I was handling mine. I started moving like an operator. Every lunch break, every evening, a new box disappeared. She never noticed. Too busy bonding at gallery brunches or urgent dinners with colleagues. My closet emptied drawer by drawer. My tech gear gone. My important documents packed and safe. The more I removed, the lighter I felt. Halfway through the week, I even tested how blind she was. I unplugged my entire gaming setup, tower, monitors, chair, the works, left the corner completely empty, cables rolled up. When she got home, she walked right past it, dumped her purse, and launched into a rant about some jealous coworker. Didn't even pause to notice half the apartment was missing. That's when it hit me. Jasmine wasn't just careless. She lived in her own little bubble, and I'd just been furniture inside of it. First stop was utilities. I called every company and cut my name off. Power, water, internet, all switched. Shared accounts done. Subscriptions canceled. By the time Friday came around, there was nothing tying me to that apartment except my last box of clothes and a key. Mark helped me on the final day. He hauled one of the bigger boxes out, looked around the half-empty place and whistled. "Man, she won't even notice this until her ring light stops working. You're Houdiniing your way out of here." "Good," I said. "That's the point." He smirked. "You know most breakups end with screaming or blocking each other. You're ghosting your own girlfriend while she's still in the relationship. Cold. I like it. It wasn't cold, it was necessary. Screaming at Jasmine would have given her the stage she always wanted. Silence and absence would be the one thing she couldn't twist. Friday night, she had another important client dinner, which gave me the window I needed. I loaded the last box into the truck, placed my set of keys on the kitchen counter, and left a note. No rambling, no begging, just facts with one sharp jab at the end. Jasmine, I've moved out. I had the landlord draft a release addendum, and I shut off all the utilities in my name. I won't be covering 75% anymore. I used to think being reliable was love, but you treated it like convenience. You've been consistently absent. Hope you find someone who values your networking as much as you do. Michael. That was it. No drawn-out paragraphs. No we need to talk. She'd shown me who she was 100 times. My response didn't need more than 5 lines. I set the note under the key so she couldn't miss it. Took one last look around. The trendy decorations she'd insisted on. The fake plants she never watered. The overpriced rug I hated. It all looked like a showroom for a life I was never really part of. Then I locked the door and left. By the time Jasmine came home that night, glowing and chatty from her dinner, I was across town unpacking my new place. She probably tossed her heels in the corner, ready to tell me about how productive the night had been. Maybe she even called out my name. What she got instead was silence and a note on the counter. And here's the ironic part. She wouldn't even realize at first. She'd think my calmness the night before meant I forgave her. She'd think I'd still be around tomorrow to pick up the slack, pay the bills, cover the rent. Jasmine always believed she could coast on charm. What she didn't see was that her biggest fan had already left the stadium. That night, sitting in my bare new apartment eating takeout off a box, I felt better than I had in months. No drama, no argument, no begging her to change. Just me, finally free. The thing about leaving clean is it doesn't feel real until the other person starts blowing up your phone. I didn't have to wait long. The morning after I left, Jasmine must have found the keys and note. At 7 a.m. My phone lit up. Michael, where are you? This isn't funny. 10 minutes later, call me now. Another 10, we need to talk. You can't just walk out like this. By lunch, the tone had changed. I know I've been selfish, but this is insane. Please come home. We can work this out. I didn't answer, not one, because there was nothing to say. I'd said everything in that note. Of course, Mark thought the texts were comedy gold. I screenshotted a couple and sent them his way. 5 minutes later, he called, already laughing. Brother, she hit you with a triple text before 8 a.m. That's desperation speed running. Let me guess. First angry, then confused. Then suddenly she's Mother Teresa. Pretty much, I said, sipping coffee. Mark put on his fake high-pitched voice. Michael, I know I've been selfish, but please come home. Translation, Michael, who's going to pay 75% of my rent now? By the end of the week, the texts went from long paragraphs to short bursts. This isn't you. We had something real. So you're really just leaving? Then finally silence. But silence didn't mean peace. Not for her. Mutual friends started reaching out. One buddy from my hiking group. Hey man, Jasmine asked me if I've seen you around. She's telling people you ghosted her. A coworker, she's been calling everyone asking how to get in touch with you. Sounds desperate. Even Madison, her sister, messaged me once. She's been staying here. She's a mess. Just thought you should know. Good. Not my problem. Without my income covering most of the rent, she lasted about 3 weeks before the walls caved in. That fancy apartment she loved so much? Gone. She had no chance of affording it solo on PR money. The gallery job looked shiny on Instagram, but the paycheck was trash. She begged friends for help, picked up odd freelance projects, even sold a couple designer bags. Didn't matter. Within a month she'd packed it up and moved into Madison's spare room. Mark, of course, turned the whole situation into a running joke. Every time we hung out, he'd pretend to read a Jasmine text in a fake voice. Michael, please, I've changed. I've discovered a new skill called doing dishes. Give me one more chance. Or, Michael, I'm moving back with my sister. This couch isn't as comfortable without you paying for it. I told him he was going to hell. He said, good, I'll save you a seat. The best part, he wasn't wrong. Jasmine wasn't crying over love, she was crying over lifestyle. When you get used to boutique dinners, new outfits every other week, and rent someone else pays, reality hits like a truck when it's gone. Meanwhile, my life had never felt better. My apartment was small, but everything in it was mine. Dark wood furniture, clean kitchen, fridge stocked with food I actually ate instead of oat milk and cheese that went bad in 2 days. No random candles, no throw pillows that served no purpose except aesthetic. Just peace. I joined a hiking group and actually had weekends free to go on trails without being guilt-tripped into helping Jasmine at events. Signed up for a photography class I'd been putting off for years. Even got back into the gym consistently. And the difference in my mood, night and day. I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes waiting to see if Jasmine would cancel plans. I wasn't lying to my family about why she wasn't around. I wasn't cleaning up someone else's mess every weekend. One Saturday I was out with Mark grabbing burgers. He pulled out his phone and said, "Yo, remember when Jasmine flaked on your birthday because she had to help a friend move?" "Yeah." He grinned. "Bet that friend isn't helping her unpack at Madison's. Karma's undefeated, man. He wasn't wrong." Word was already getting around that Jasmine's social life was slipping. Friends stopped inviting her to dinners once she couldn't afford her share. Co-workers whispered about her situation at the gallery. She'd built her whole image on being carefree, stylish, and always out and about. That crumbles fast when you're sitting on your sister's couch begging Venmo favors. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel like I was covering for anyone. And I sure as hell didn't feel like a doormat. What Jasmine thought was a safety net turned out to be a life raft, and the second I cut the rope, she sank. Life without Jasmine was smoother than I thought possible. My apartment was quiet, organized, and mine. I was actually enjoying weekends again. Hiking trails, photography classes, gym sessions, dinners with Mark where he roasted me for ever putting up with Jasmine in the first place. Then came Kara. I met her at a cross-company training on infrastructure planning. She was a structural engineer, sharp as hell but not flashy about it. We ended up talking about projects, then random stuff like hiking spots and traffic design. The difference hit me right away. She listened. She actually asked about my promotion and congratulated me like it mattered. When we grabbed coffee later that week, she showed up early, split the bill, and didn't once look at her phone. After years of Jasmine making everything about herself, it felt like stepping into clean air after breathing smoke. I wasn't rushing anything, but just that contrast reminded me how much nonsense I'd tolerated. We kept seeing each other casually, then steadily. A few months rolled by, and the more time we spent together, the more obvious it became. This was the opposite of my last relationship. Of course, Jasmine wasn't done. It started with the texts, after a month of silence. My phone buzzed with an essay. "Michael, I know you think I let you down, but you didn't understand how stressed I was. The party wasn't just fun, it was work. You always said you wanted me to succeed. Why couldn't you support me in that?" I didn't answer. Next day, you abandoned me without a conversation. Do you know how cruel that is? After everything I did for you. Funny, she couldn't list what those things were. Then I've started therapy. I'm working on my commitment issues. Can we meet just once? Mark read that one out loud in a dramatic voice and said, translation, she's committed to finding her next wallet. I nearly spat out my drink. 2 weeks later, she upped the ante. Saturday morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Jasmine standing there like she'd walked out of a rom-com, hair done, makeup perfect, fake hopeful smile. "Michael," she breathed, like I'd been the one missing her. "Finally, can we talk?" I leaned on the door frame. "You found the place. Congrats. GPS works." She blinked at my tone but pushed on. "Look, I know I screwed up, okay? I didn't realize how much you did until you weren't there. It opened my eyes. I've changed." "Changed?" I asked. "It's been 6 weeks." "That's not change, that's a vacation." Her smile twitched. "I'm serious. I'm in therapy now. I've been journaling. I get it, I wasn't prioritizing us. But you have to admit you didn't exactly make it easy. You were so independent all the time. I thought you didn't need me." I almost laughed. "So I was too responsible. That's your excuse?" She crossed her arms. "Don't twist my words. You made me feel like I couldn't contribute." "Funny, because I remember begging you to contribute," I shot back. Her voice went up a notch. "This isn't fair. You just left." "Who does that? Adults talk things through. Oh, like when I tried to talk about my grandma and you ditched me for a spa day? That kind of talking?" Her face cracked for a second, then she slapped the smile back on. "That was different. But I've learned now. I can be better. Don't throw away 2 years because of a few mistakes." "A few?" I asked. "You missed my promotion dinner. That wasn't a mistake, that was a decision. You picked a rooftop party over me. You did the same thing every time. Birthday, family, work. You always picked something else." Her eyes welled up. "You don't understand. That's just how my job is. Networking is everything." "Then maybe marry networking," I said. "Sounds like it was your real relationship." She gasped like I'd slapped her, then in the same breath said, "But you owe me a chance to prove myself. After all, I invested in us." I raised an eyebrow. "Owe you? Invested with what exactly?" "Because I'm still waiting for the return." That's when she cracked for real. Tears rolling, mascara smudged. "Please, Michael, I can't believe you're being this cold. We had history. We had love." "No," I said calmly. "We had me carrying dead weight. History belongs in the past, Jasmine. You're not a chapter I'm rereading." I closed the door gently but firmly. She stood out there a few minutes crying, then stomped away. Later that night I told Mark. He burst out laughing. "She really showed up to the guy she drained for 2 years and tried to play victim? Man, that wasn't closure, that was a comedy special." I grinned. "She said she was journaling." "Oh good," Mark said. "She can title it How to Lose a Good Man in 10 Easy Steps." We cracked up until our sides hurt, and for the first time I didn't feel a shred of guilt, just relief. Because while Jasmine was busy contradicting herself in my doorway, I was already living proof that I'd leveled up, and I wasn't looking back. Life with Kara started feeling like the kind of stability I used to think was boring. Except now I realized it was what an actual partnership looks like. Months later, when we decided to move in together, she didn't vanish on move day. She brought boxes, labeled everything, had a checklist for utilities, and even baked muffins for the neighbors so introductions went smooth. That was the type of detail Jasmine never would have cared about. Bills were split evenly, chores rotated naturally. If I cooked, she cleaned. If she had a tough week, I covered more and vice versa. Nothing needed to be begged for. Nothing felt one-sided. When my next work milestone came, a big project rolled out successfully, Kara showed up with a small cake and balloons in the office parking lot. Nothing over the top, but she remembered. She showed up. She valued my wins because they were ours to celebrate, not interruptions to her networking schedule. That's when it really sank in. This is what consistency looks like. Meanwhile, Jasmine's world was collapsing like a poorly wired grid in a storm. Word got back through Madison that having her as a houseguest was a nightmare. She refused to clean, complained about space, left dishes piled up, and expected Madison to bankroll extras. About 3 weeks after moving in, Madison snapped, threw her out with a blunt. If you want to live here, contribute. If not, pack your bags. Jasmine packed her bags. But where did she go? Nowhere. Friends she used to parade around with on Instagram suddenly didn't have space. Truth was, they'd all heard the freeloading stories and didn't want to deal with it. She burned through her goodwill. Invitations dried up. No dinners, no rooftop bars, no content nights. So Jasmine did what she always swore she'd never do. Took 2 jobs just to scrape by. One was retail, folding clothes for teenagers. The other was waiting tables. The gallery job she flexed about non-stop? Gone. After a pileup of missed deadlines, no shows, and her boss catching wind that she was more focused on networking than actually delivering, HR finally called her in. By the end of that week, she was packing her desk into a box. The same gig she used to wave around like proof she was thriving ended with a quiet HR meeting and a box of her things. She tried to spin it as pivoting into new opportunities, but everyone knew HR doesn't hand you a box for a pivot. Mutual friends sent me updates like mini episodes. She looks exhausted, like actual bags under her eyes for once instead of designer ones. Another, she told someone she's focusing on self-growth, but it looks more like she's focusing on folding jeans at 11 p.m. Mark, of course, turned it all into his personal comedy routine. We'd meet up and he'd start mock-reading her old texts like dramatic poetry. "Michael, please come home. I've changed." Then he'd clap his hands together. Changed into what exactly? A double-shift zombie? One time he raised his soda in the air and said, to Michael, "Comeback player of the year." She didn't lose a boyfriend, she lost an investor. I cracked up. Investor? Yeah, he said. You weren't dating her. You were her venture capital. And she ran the business straight into the ground. That one stuck with me for weeks because it was dead accurate. Jasmine treated the relationship like a funding source. When the money dried up, so did everything else. Watching her fall apart from a distance wasn't something I obsessed over, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like karma working overtime. She went from rooftop parties and urgent client dinners to folding polos and begging family not to kick her out. The same people she once ditched me for didn't even bother checking in on her. That's what happens when your whole brand is surface-level charm. Once the shine fades, nobody sticks around. Meanwhile, my life felt like the first time you switch on a power system and all the lights actually hold steady. No outages, no surges, just consistency. Kara and I built routines that worked. Even Mark stopped clowning on me as much, saying, "Man, I can't even roast this. You finally did it right." Looking back, Jasmine's downfall wasn't shocking. She always lived like the safety net would hold, no matter how recklessly she bounced. When I cut the net, she crashed. But the real win wasn't watching her fall. It was realizing I didn't need to be anyone's net at all. Reliability isn't weakness, it's strength. But only when the other person values it. With Jasmine, my reliability made me her crutch. With Kara, it makes me her partner. That's the difference. I used to think love meant waiting for someone to choose you eventually. Now I know real love is 2 people choosing each other daily in small, consistent ways. No grand speeches, no empty promises, just showing up. The day I stopped being her backup plan was the day I promoted myself to priority. And that, hands down, was the best promotion I've ever given myself.